Hi everyone, this is Jonathan and not Craig as it maybe says on the slide. If you can just type a 1 in the box or something to let me know that you can hear me. Okay. Welcome, Lee. Let's see who else is here. I'll give people a couple of minutes just to get on the call. I can see people are starting to come on. So really what I want to do on this session, which is being recorded, so all being well, there will be a replay. Hi, Gregory from Oregon. And what I really want to do is go through any of your questions specifically, and I can maybe cover a few things anyway, which maybe will help you diagnose any little problems that you get maybe with things like your feed, either inside of ROKU or the one for Amazon Fire TV. So we'll just give people a few more minutes and then we'll get started. So if you have got any questions, if you can gather up any information you need. So what I mean by that is things like your ROKU and Amazon Fire TV feed. So that's either the JSON feed for ROKU or the XML feed for Amazon Fire TV. That will obviously help substantially, as you'll see, hopefully when I start showing you some of the things to look for, what maybe a few things mean and how you hopefully fix things. So let's see how we're going. Right, not an awful lot of people here, but let's, I think, get started. So let me start sharing my screen in a second. Right, so can you someone just confirm in the questions that they can see the TVBoss Facebook group? Yes, okay, thanks, Gregory. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do is, hang on, I'll have to answer a couple of other questions in that group after this call. Right, so this is what I suggest when you, so if you go in here and let's say I want to check this feed because I'm getting an error somewhere, like inside ROKU as an example. I don't think I've necessarily at the moment got any errors in mind, but I can still show you, and they might have a few old errors, I suppose, in there because they do tend to store them, you know, historically backwards anyway. So let's just see. So I'm going to go inside of ROKU into my developer dashboard and into where my channels are. And I'll just use one of my samples really. Probably try this one down here. So what we're talking about is when you go in the feed status, you want to, yeah, see this one, okay, it only goes back, well, it goes back a fair way, but this has only got one video in, but you see this doesn't have any errors, it just says one item ingested. Perhaps I can try another one. That maybe has a few more things in it. Well, at least I think this one will have more inside it. Oh, okay, this might be a better choice than I thought. Right, okay. So what we have here is, see, it's got 7 items ingested. One item has an error. Okay, so this actually is the old TVBoss for ROKU, but that's okay. What I'll do is I'll copy this URL, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this in a new window. Now, if I was doing it from inside of here, I could just click this link, and then that would open that in a new window. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to load it up, and then we'll just have a look. So here is our JSON feed. Now, what I've done as well is I've actually got installed an extension, and that's why you see this raw and parsed over here, because this is made to work with a JSON feed file. It just means it should be formatted a bit better. So what I'm looking for here, if I can find it, is for this to explain this error. So one item has an error, required video URL is unreachable. So essentially that means that it cannot load this. But I think what I'm going to try as well though, because the 13th is a few days ago, so I'll just refresh this. Now the other thing when you refresh to be aware of is this will not refresh in this window immediately. So what I normally do is I give it a minute or two. Sometimes it seems to be almost immediate. Other times it may take a few minutes. If your channel is published, you'll have a preview and a published version. It's only really the preview version like this that you can update. You know, the other one works on a schedule of roughly 6 hours. But let me just come up here, and I'm just going to try and refresh this preview version, because you notice at the moment it's got the 13th of April, 12:29 a.m., which we are on the 16th, so you know that is more than 3 days ago. But hopefully when I refresh this, I'm going to see, yeah, a new entry. Fine. So it's still got that error. So that could well mean that this still applies. So let's just go and look at this JSON feed. Now, of course, it tells me it's one video, but what it doesn't tell me is whether it's like the first video or, you know, the last one. But essentially what I'm going to be looking at is this URL. In the first instance, I'm just going to look and see, you know, does this look like it is a valid URL or not? So that's the first thing to check. So far, it probably looks like it's okay. Ah, right. Okay, so here I see the problem, because I know I was trialing this and I know that link is no longer valid. So we're fortunate this time is that I know isn't the right one. So potentially what I can do is I'll copy this and then I'll change the URL so I go into the manage part. Now, I appreciate this isn't going to be as helpful for people that just have the new version, but the bit about the feed and the way of diagnosing the problem is relevant. It's just that you would be looking inside of your TVBoss Fire and not in my hosted account as I am doing here. But what I want to do is find this link down here somewhere. You see, this one is harder to use, trust me, when I say that. So it's this one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that. And then I'm going to save this. Because really what I want to see is whether, if I come back in here and refresh this, again, see 9:39, it's now 9:42 for me, or 9:43 for me. So I'll give that a minute. And then again, I'll try and refresh it. But if it doesn't show up the first time, and voila, fixed. Because now you can see we've just got the 7 items ingested and we have no error. So it would work in a similar way in here. Let me maybe just pick another channel. In fact, that one would be okay, actually, because that has got at least 5 videos in it. So I would just open the feed like this. And it does work best in Chrome, by the way. Though if you have this extension, it does help a lot. Otherwise, I've found sometimes it gets a bit sort of jumbled up. So what I would be looking for in here is at my, possibly at my video URLs. And if I have any problems with thumbnail images, like was shown in the video the other day, then this is where you would check them. Okay, so you don't want spaces. That is definitely going to break your feed and you'll get errors. So I can just look down here and see that we all seem to be okay. What I might try and do is see if I can actually find, right, so, sorry, I don't want that one. I want to see if I can find this one. Okay, so it ends E224, Jason. So I'll go back in ROKU, into the developer dashboard, into my channels, and these are a little bit jumbled up, but let me see if I can find it. So I'll check the URL. Oh, good. So that is the right feed URL. Because see, if you look at that, 90e224.json. So 90e224.json. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back into this ROKU, and I'm going to change from feed URL to feed status. So yes, that shows 5 items ingested successfully. So that one is absolutely fine. And okay, so here's an example of another error. Okay, so this one item has error. I mean, this is long gone. This was back on the 22nd of February, and it was fixed within 5 minutes. But so thumbnail must be 16:9 aspect ratio, at least 800:450. I would stick to your 800:450. It can be JPEG or it can be PNG, but my experience tells me that JPEG does work best. So what that meant was that I had a thumbnail image here, but it did not match this size or ratio. So that was pretty easy to fix just by uploading another different thumbnail. So for instance, if I go in here and go inside the videos, and then it would just be a matter of changing one of these images here. And you can do that either by putting a link in here if it's not hosted on TVBoss Fire, but generally I would recommend that you just upload it from your computer, and then it will put a link in here for you. But those are your two options, and you can see here with that tooltip, it tells you 800:450 thumbnail image of your video in JPEG or PNG format. So hopefully that sort of helps you with the sort of diagnostic of issues with your feed. So let's though go back and I want to look at the Amazon Fire TV feed. So this one is slightly different structure, say is an XML file. You don't really need to worry too much about what that is. It's just the format of the file that Amazon Fire TV needs. This is the exact same content that we've been looking at for the ROKU one. So things like the descriptions and the URLs and that will be very similar. They are slightly different, as you may notice here, but you don't need to worry about that, because when you input, for instance, a video URL inside of here under the content section, then this will be interpreted in the right way. And what you notice here, and this actually, see if anyone can spot my deliberate mistake actually. So let's just have a look. Can anyone see what the error is with me having two URLs here? So let's see if we have any bright sparks on the call. So if you think you know the answer, then let me know. Okay, so I have no bright sparks, it seems. does anyone want to give a stab at what is wrong with these two URLs? Okay, well, I'll put you out your misery. It's certainly absolutely fine to have two URLs if you want to. You don't have to have two, but if you are using Fire TV, then you must not have the UHD one as the first URL. And the reason for that, can you see in brackets, it's got Fire TV. And the reason for that is, unlike ROKU, when you're using Fire TV, it's only going to use the first one that it finds. So if I left it like this, so really these need to be swapped around, then this would only work if the person has a Fire Stick 4K. If they have just a full HD one, which is what a lot of people have, then you would find it would not play on Amazon Fire TV. Whereas if you have it the other way round, then it will be fine. It will still work with either resolution on ROKU, and it will work fine with the full HD one, or it could be an HD one as the first one, for Fire TV. So hopefully that will help a few of you if you are using UHD videos, to know that don't put it as the top video. Right, so let me just look at the questions, because I see there are a few here. Yeah, I don't know if someone's suggesting that maybe it's a low turnout because some of the invitations show 4:30 Central Daylight Time. So we'll see if we're still here in 25 minutes roughly. Okay, so I'm not a Fire member. Want to suspend if no other attendees. I am not a Fire member. Want to suspend if no other attendees. Well, no, I think we can carry on because a lot of it applies to both anyway. Right, okay, so Raven's asking, is there ever a reason we should back up all our JSON feeds? And can I show you? It's much more important, I would say, on the old version. But yes, I would even probably do it on the new one. So I'll show you the two ways really to do it. One is applicable to the old version, but let me show you the way to do it on the new version. So all you would do, and this is an XML, so let's find the other one. Right, so this is the JSON feed. All you really need to do is copy all of this, so you can either do it something like that, or I'm on a Mac, so let's see if I can do it. I think I need to use my mouse to do it. Is I right click, can I do it? No, okay. I know on Windows, maybe I can do copy. Certainly if I was on Windows, I would just do select all. You know, there'd be a menu here and I could select it all, and then I could copy it, and then all I would do, and I don't think Mac is quite so good for this, what I normally do is use a program called Notepad++. That's free to download. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, there we go. So this is what I tend to use when I'm using my Windows computer, is I just install this. It's like the normal Windows Notepad program, but this actually supports more file formats, including JSON files. So I would then be able to open this program and just paste what I'd copied from here into that file, and then I would just save it with something like the channel name and the date, and then do .json and just make sure in the program that you set it to answer. Sorry, let me just turn that off. Right, yeah, so just make sure you set it so that it will save it as a JSON file. So that's how you would do it on this new version. And then on the old one, you can, let me find the page that I want, if I've still got it. It's this one, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So on this one, which is the old version, similar thing, just copy it like so, and then you can, oh look, this actually had the select all on here. So yeah, so let's do it like that. So I can do select all, that way I don't need to highlight it and scroll down. And then I would copy it, open up document, save it, name it appropriately, and keep a few copies as well. Don't do as I've seen a few people do, go, all right, I'll make a copy, and then they just paste it into the same document and resave it. That then means you only have one copy. It's not a bad idea to have a few that cover a few different dates just in case. So that, and the other way I'll just show you quickly as well. Just bear with me because I'll need to log into my cPanel. So say this is only any good for people with the old version of TVBoss for ROKU. Let me, that's a good start. Oh, yeah, is it? Okay, that might be why, I hope. Yeah, okay, let me log into my account. And then hopefully into cPanel afterwards. Okay, and then I'll go into here. Now I know this one is on my jonathanhammond.info. So let's do something like that. I'll go into cPanel and I'll go into File Manager. And I know there are a few people on this call that have got the old version, so I think this is worthwhile for them. I'm pretty sure, yeah, so it's in, let me just double check. So I'm looking for FGHU78. There we go. And so the feed is here, feed.json. Now, you might have worked out now how I'm backing this up, because here's a file that I did previously on the 4th of March. But let's just delete that one so I can show you. So this is what I would normally expect to see. You might have some thumbnail images in here if you're using the old version, and your feed file. So all I do, single click the feed file, come up here to compress, select zip archive, and then compress it. Now, if I now reload that, here is my file. But the sensible thing now would be to rename this, and I'm going to want to leave the zip part on. But let's call this, I'm trying to think what it was called, so let's just assume it was Dad's Army, and then I'd put 2019, and then the month, 04, and then the day of the month, which is 16, and then rename it. And then, of course, importantly, you want to download that and store it in a safe place. So at least on the old version, you would have a way that you could put this back. So that shows you both the way that you can make backups of these files, which I say is much more critical when you're hosting this yourself rather than it be on the new platform. So let's see what else we have. Yeah, so sorry if I didn't see your message earlier, Sheila. Yes, you are right. The bottom URL should be at the top. Yeah, so that was in here. So you never have a UHD URL on the top, particularly if you're using Fire TV, because that just means that many times it will fail, because if the person only has an HD device, which those are the most popular because they've been out the longest, then when they go to play the video, it will not work. All right, why? What is this? Okay, why use two? Good question. Okay, so depending on the person's TV, that's one aspect, but also dependent on their internet connection, you want to have the best possible video file for that person to view. So if they have a UHD TV and a good internet connection, then you would want to serve up that video in preference to a full HD, which is a quarter of the size, because this one, UHD, is 3840 by 2160. Full HD is 1920 by 1080, and HD is 1280 by 720. So each of those really requires a lower bandwidth or bit rate, if you like, to display. So that is why you might want to have 2 or sometimes even 3. Generally, 2 is fine. I mean, 1 is fine really as well. I mean, it might be a full HD one, or if the content you have is only available in HD, then you may just have 1 file. But that does allow me, I think, now to touch on bit rate. So important. Too many people seem to be using videos where the bit rate is too high. Now, there's a couple of issues with that, and if you've heard me say this before, I apologize, but I think there's lots of people that haven't. So I feel I really need to repeat it again. Okay, so the higher the bit rate, the more bandwidth that's going to be used for everyone that views your video. And of course, when you're using, Vimeo in particular, they have a limit for use of playing or viewing of videos on ROKU, which is 1,000 gigabytes per month. So if you had a video and it was 1 gigabyte, which is quite large, in general for videos, unless they are UHD ones, then over the course of the whole month, there could only be 33 views per day of that video. And then you'd be over your limit. Whereas if you use a lower bit rate, then instead of it being 1,000 megabytes, it might be 100. And indeed, if you had a typical UHD video that was 1,000 megabytes, which is 1 gigabyte, then as an HD video, I would expect that to only be around about 100 megabytes for the same sort of quality. The data rate would be lower, but the screen is not so massive. So, it's displaying, sort of 1280 as opposed to 3840. So that's 3 times wider, and it's 720 instead of 2160. So that's 3 times higher. So that's a difference, or that's a ratio of 9 to 1. So broadly speaking, a 1,000 megabyte UHD video, I would expect to be 111 megabytes on an HD video. And here's the other really important factor that people tend to totally not even think about. Think about not everyone may have as good an internet connection as perhaps you have. Particularly maybe if they're outside of, large cities, or sometimes not even large cities in the US, but elsewhere, in the US, Canada, or other places, internationally. So if you have the bit rate too high and someone happens to have not a very good internet connection, one of 2 things will happen. Either they'll get buffering of that video. So buffering, what that means, in case you don't know, is it plays maybe for, between 1 and maybe 5 seconds, and then it will stop and you'll see this animation on the screen going round and round and round before hopefully it starts playing again. and then it'll play, another few seconds and it will stop. So that doesn't give a good viewing experience to the people that are watching your videos. If their, connection is even worse, so that's what they'll get if they have a reasonable connection, but not quite up to par. If it's much worse, what you'll probably find is it does not even play at all. So my argument always is you're trying to find, if you like, the maximum compatibility with your audience and getting the right balance, between the quality and conserving the bandwidth, so that, you don't find that you're getting one of these letters like 3 or 4 people now I think have had saying, oh, you're doing really well and your bandwidth is totally amazing, but we at Vimeo can't continue to offer you your pro account for $200-ish per year. You need to go on a custom plan. And custom plans, depending how wildly high your bandwidth is, are not cheap. Certainly a lady who I've helped and now providing with alternative hosting, her estimate or quote that she got from Vimeo was for $15,000 per year. That's one channel with 33 videos. Yes, she does have or did have back in early March almost 30,000 subscribers and almost 30,000 viewing hours, and that was on a channel that was only launched on the 8th of February. So in less than a month, it had gone from 0, i.e. no channel, to those sort of levels. We did optimize her videos, and I say I've supplied her with alternative hosting, which is at a much more competitive rate than she was going to get from Vimeo or anyone else we could find. But in fact, she is now at least trebled, probably even quadrupled the bandwidth for that quote that she got from Vimeo, because last month certainly she used 100 terabytes. So that's 100,000 gigabytes. But she did have, I think, over the course of that month, about 1 million views. So you can see you can, with really successful channels, you can have lots of subscribers and like 1,000 hours per day of viewing. Exceptional, I agree. Not many people will, achieve that, and certainly not so quickly. Right, so let me have a look at a couple of other questions. Right, I bought the newer version of Fire TV. Do I need to understand to use the JSON codes? Well, the only thing you need to understand, Anne, really, is what I showed about, if you like, diagnosing when you get a fault. So like if you go into ROKU, sorry, ROKU is here, and if you saw an error like this, would you know how or where to look to try and find that error? So see, I gave you a clue, and okay, this still had 4 items ingested successfully. So I would need to look at all 5 thumbnail URLs and maybe test them to see exactly what size they were. But that's why you need, even with the new one, to be able to like look at this and try and work it out. I mean, a lot of the problems I know that people had over the weekend, for instance, were mainly with images. And in almost every case, in fact, it might even have been every single case, it was because they had a space in their file name. Spaces in file names are an absolute no-no. It will break your channel in both Roku and in Amazon Fire TV. I tend to keep my file names and everything, as you can see here, really as simple as possible. I don't even use uppercase and lowercase letters. I make them all lowercase. So I don't put hyphens in, I don't put underscores, and all those sort of things that could possibly break it. Maybe going, a step further than you really need to, but I just keep it simple, so I just go, yeah, okay, Dad's Army High Finance or whatever, and then that's what I, upload in TVBoss. Yeah, so if I go back to the top of this section, so this thumbnail here, I've just chosen it from my computer, already named appropriately, and then I'm not going to have any problem, with this image, most likely. I mean, I obviously did have one there, albeit that was back, say, I think it was the 22nd of February. And so I had to fix that, but you can see I did that in 5 minutes because I could see this and go, okay, look at my JSON feed. Sorry, that's the XML one. So I think it's this one, JSON. And I would have just gone through each of these. I don't need to worry about anything else because there aren't any errors. So I know my video links and that are all fine. I just need to go, okay, start at the top. Where's my first image? Does that look okay? Well, that's actually because we're looking at the file ratio or size. Let's just open that file. And then I could test to see whether this is, the right size or not. And if it is, then just go on to the next one. And then hopefully on or before the time I got to the very bottom, I would then find the culprit and, just be able to then rename it, upload it again, and it'll update the link, and then refresh it, and all then would be fine. And I don't know whether you hear from the start, but I showed it with another one where, it was saying the video link was invalid or wasn't reachable, I think was the exact words. But I looked in the appropriate file, and just by scrolling down, I then went, here you go, here's the problem. Went back into my ROKU, my feed, took the file out, the video file out, because there was another file in there. And then I showed on screen, having saved it and going back in here on the appropriate channel, it wasn't this one, that it was all right. I mean, this one is all right anyway. The error was only just, down here for a few minutes. After that, it was absolutely fine. So yes, that's why you need to know or look at the JSON feed and on Fire TV the XML file, just to check for any errors, if that's what you're seeing inside of Roku or inside of Amazon, Fire TV in the previewer, for instance, in the creator. Okay, so let's see what else we have. And if you could just confirm, please, that that is cleared it up for you. All right, let me have a look. All right, as a TVBoss Basic member, can I still pick up your training vids and proceed with no trouble? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. I mean, I've done training videos both for the old version and with the new version. So this webinar replay, I think I'll probably put, especially as it's more of just a question and answer one, I'll probably just put inside of both members area. Right, let me look at the next one. When I upload a video in Vimeo, I click on distribution where it says no Creative Commons license. Do I leave it on that or choose one of the other options? I'm making my own videos. Well, you could do either. All you really need to decide, if it's your own video, do you want to give Creative Commons rights license to it? If you don't, which is probably what most people would do, then you would just leave it so it says no Creative Commons license. If you want to give a Creative Commons license, either with or without commercial rights, then you can obviously set that to whichever you choose. I think in most cases, whilst I do like Creative Commons stuff sometimes to use on my own videos, I wouldn't want just to give them, away for anyone to use. But if you feel differently, then that's fine. You can do that. I mean, it can obviously get you some exposure and recognition sometimes, but then equally, if it's a valuable asset, you don't want to just be letting anyone perhaps use it. And if you're giving commercial rights, to make commercial gain from it. Okay, so John Palmer is asking what is too high. I'm assuming that's the data rate. Personally, depends on the resolution you're using. What Roku recommend is actually between 200 and 2000 kilobits per second. Now, I have seen people, ask me to, for instance, look at a video or upload a video for them, and I've looked at it and I've tested that, and I've gone, what? And they've sent me a video with 120 megabit per second data rate. Almost no one, and I literally mean that, I reckon less than 1% of people with Roku would be able to view that. They might struggle to even view it on their computer, but they'll struggle even more to try and view it on Roku because it's got an overhead and that to run the system anyway. And that, for those of you that saw the little demo that I did the other week on data rates, and I did some various tests on different resolutions, different data rates, and how the difference, between a data rate of maybe like 2,500 kilobits per second, or I think I did another one which was about 4,500, and then even ones down to like 800 was pretty hard to see. And the size difference in videos, I think in one case was about 13:1. So in other words, one might have been, for instance, 650 megabytes at the highest data rate, and at the lowest data rate was 50. And when you actually looked at them on the screen, and mine was on a full HD screen, you could hardly notice the difference between the two. But think of how much bandwidth that would save you and how many more people would be able to play it. So yeah, my general advice is 200 to 2000, in line with what ROKU say. That's going to give you the greatest compatibility. I mean, you can obviously go up beyond 200, for instance, on HD, like maybe to 400 or maybe even 800, and that will probably still be okay, reasonably compatible. But I wouldn't go, much over that in general if I'm aiming for the maximum possible compatibility with all the users out there. Because you don't want people seeing buffering when they play your video. That's going to be a complete turn off, and they probably will not come back to your channel again. Okay, is it possible to explain how to use the user application? Not exactly sure what you mean by that. Do you mean as an agency holder? Because those are the only ones I think really that are going to have the user application. And there's a couple of things that I just touch on very, very lightly because I don't want to cross over into agency sections, but it's generally, anyway, not a good idea to give people access even to their own channel. You manage it for them. Just think of it this way. How easy or difficult have you found it to set up your channels and do all the other things? Imagine what it would be like for someone that doesn't have your knowledge, experience, and all the work you've done. And the other story I just want to alert you to, I know of another platform, not on ROKU or Amazon or anything like that. It was to do with a membership site. And this membership site had a number of courses in it. And in literally 2 seconds, a VA made a massive boo-boo, clicked the wrong button, and 9 months of work went down the drain. And it wasn't the VA for the person who was running or selling the agency version of the website or the membership site. It was a VA that was working for the one that it sold to. And the person had the audacity to say, well, I know it was my VA that made that mistake, but I'm expecting you to put everything back the way it was. So make sure you have, things like that covered in your agreement. But my general advice is I never, ever give other people other than my own VA that I have 100% confidence in access, because I don't want that headache. And it is a headache when something like that happens. So that's where your JSON files would help a bit, even on the new one, but you would still have to reconstruct things. So again, my other option for that partly as well is use a Google Sheet. Yeah, so because that makes it faster to build as well, although it's pretty fast in TVBoss Fire, especially compared to the older version. But at least then you have, all your links, your descriptions, your titles, your images, everything else you've got to hand. And it's still not nice, but at least you can sort of get it back to what it was really. So if your question is more in depth, Sheila, and it's to do with the agency version, then, perhaps you can, ask through the agency section more than trying to do it in here. Right, is it recommended when setting up and adding video, should we fill in the info for ad breaks for advertising? Well, I would probably say no. And let me explain why. Those ad breaks are for what are called mid-roll ads. Normally in ROKU, if you do not fill that in, and assuming you have ads on your channel through ROKU or Barron's Media or some other company, then the ads get shown before the videos start playing. Yes, you could have those other ad breaks in, but the thing is, here's the thing. With those, I wouldn't just put in, for instance, because I know I can have ads every 7 minutes. So I wouldn't put in, for instance, 7, 14, 21, 28. Okay, this is a 29-minute video. That's the end of that. Because the video then might not be showing at really the time you want it to. Often you want to break it at a particular point, don't you? So that's quite a lot of work to do. So I would be thinking more about doing that once I know I've got ads running, on my channel, rather than, imagine if you have 50 videos, average of, we'll say, 22 minutes long, that would be 150 ad breaks you'd have to fill in. And yes, you could put 7, 14, 21, 7, 14, 21, and just repeat that, 50 times over. But I don't think that's the best way, because you might want it at like 7 minutes and 14 seconds. You might want the next one at, 14 minutes, 16 seconds. The next one at, 21, 21 or whatever. So, hopefully that helps you, Terry. I think this is your training vids, but to repeat, please, the step-by-step or best tool for thumbnails. Well, there's lots and lots of different ways to do that, really. I mean, you can even use things like Screencast-O-Matic, which I use to make a lot of my videos, but equally you can use that to make your thumbnails, because it will capture screen images. So you can do it from as simple as, for example, doing a screen capture on the screen, with the video paused or whatever, finding the frame, and then probably cutting it out because you don't want probably the URL and that sort of stuff in it, and then just resize it to the right size, i.e. the 800 by 450. You can use various other pieces of software. You've got things like Snagit. I've got this one here. Nimbus screenshot. I've got another one here somewhere. I think it's on my Firefox. Awesome screenshot, is it? Yeah. So there's loads and loads and loads that you can use really, and really that's sort of one of the ways that I do it is just decide on the method that you want to use to capture it. Like the almost the no software solution is, like I say, just do a screen capture on Windows, print screen, or on Mac they have a similar thing. I can't remember the keys. I think it's something like Shift Alt F3 or something, but you can check into that. And then often what I do, because I love this program, albeit it's only available for Windows, and I'm on a Mac at the moment, so I can't show it live, so to speak, but is, oh, that's not right. Let's try again. I thought it was get paint. Oh, maybe it is .com. I thought it was .net. Oh no. Get paint.net. Let's try that. That looks more hopeful. Yeah. So this is a free program, free to download. You can make a donation if you wish. And this is a very useful program. And you can load an image in here. And then if you go to the image option, which you can't probably see very well, but that's there, you can then change the size. So if this was, for example, a 1280 by 720 image, whereas you want 800 by 450, you can just choose to resize it and then save it, and then you've got your image, and you can obviously repeat that over and over, and it's pretty quick and easy to do. Now Anthony, right, okay. I answered the first part of your question, I think, in the group yesterday. I have an HD Vizio Smart TV. Should I replace it with a UHD Smart TV? Not necessarily. You can do now. I think it's that TV, if I remember right. That one actually has Chromecast built in. So my answer last night in the group was, yeah, they have, from what I could see on the website, they have between 3 and 5 HDMI connectors. But even if it only had one, you just need to pay maybe $20 on Amazon to get a switcher that could do 5 HDMI connectors. And then you could switch between like a ROKU screen with the device, or a Amazon Fire TV screen with the device. But it's not necessarily to have UHD. I mean, if you really fancy getting a new TV and you like the idea of that, extra resolution and, being able to test better, then possibly, but I don't really think personally. I mean, I don't at the moment have a UHD TV. I just have a full HD. I may be getting a new one soon, and my testing is, absolutely fine. Yes, I do have a couple of ROKU devices. I do have a couple of Amazon Fire TV sticks, an HD and a 4K one. But as long as you, have those devices, it's not essential to have like all the different variations of it by any means. The main thing is you want to be able to, to test it, because yes, you can create and even send a channel for approval on Roku or Amazon Fire TV, but you are shooting a bit in the dark if you haven't tested it. And in fact, I've had a few people now say, look, I don't have a device. If I give you $10, will you test my channel for me? And if you find something wrong with it, please tell me so I can fix it and you can then test it again. So yeah, I've sort of helped those people out by doing that. But hopefully soon they'll just have their own device to be able to do it, because especially on Roku, see, you won't know necessarily that your video does not play, if you're not actually able to test it, because the fact that it plays in a browser does not necessarily mean that it will play inside of Roku. Most of the time it will, but there are instances where, a link in a browser responds differently to that, essentially that same link inside of Roku, because it's not, it's not like your typical, Chrome or Safari or Firefox browser. So, that's my, sort of view on that. But UHD TV, nice to have, not really essential. And I suppose the other answer to that, well, look, if you don't have Roku device and you don't have an Amazon Fire TV device, I would get those ahead, I think, of upgrading to a UHD TV. To me, that's going to be a lot less, and you're going to make better use of it than you probably will a UHD TV when you already have one. Okay, let's have a look. There's a few more questions here. Estimate when Fire members get in live streaming. Well, that's impossible for me to answer, really. I know it's been sort of worked on and tested, but it'll be released really when it's ready. And I know that's probably not the answer you really wanted me to say, but it's no point in rushing something out. We only want to send it out to you when we know that it's ready. What we will be doing, which I appreciate probably won't help you, Gregory, but for the people obviously that now have the agency license, you will get it as, if you like, beta testers, for want of a better description, before anyone else. So in other words, once the development team say, yeah, okay, we're happy with everything, we think this is ready for release, then we'll be giving it to the agency license holders. And when I say agency license holders, I really mean for TVBoss Fire, because it's not going to be available on the previous TVBoss ROKU version, to test and give us feedback. And I suspect they will, find some little bugs and that we need to fix, before we release it to everyone else. I mean, that really is the nature of software. I mean, I've been involved in testing, software and even operating systems for over 20 years. I think it's probably 25 years this year from the first time that I did that sort of testing. So I do know how much work and everything goes into it. Right, could you show an example inside of VideoProc how we can convert the bit rate? That's, Terry, that would be a little bit involved, I think, for this call. What I would probably tend to more do with that is not so much the bit rate, but the size, and part of that goes hand in hand. Let me see whether maybe I've got something. No, let's do it in here. Video prop, I think is the next page. There we go. So let's see if we can get this to load up. Yeah, it's going to load down here. So what I tend to do more with VideoProc is to downsize videos. So if I have a video, and I'll see if I can find one, that is 4K, and I want to reduce it down to either full HD or just HD. And just see if I can find them. See, look, here's my experiments last week, or well, on the 7th actually. See where I had a UHD video with this data rate, and it was this size, and then I had a full HD at this data rate and another one at this, and so on. You can see the sizes, and if you examine the quality, so here's what I meant. See, look, so here's one that was full HD. It was 571 megabytes, had an 18,270 bit rate, so really high. So a lot of people would struggle, and I showed what a struggle it was to play that actually on ROKU. I had even troubles playing it on my own computer without it buffering. But then this is the same video, but yes, a much lower data rate, 786, but it's only 24 megabytes. So that's about 1/24th. Yeah, so 24 by 24 would be 576. So that's 1/24th of the size. And these are actually both HD videos. And the difference was minimal. Yes, you could tell the difference, but I'd much rather have a file that was a 24th of the size and didn't, eat up nearly 600 megabytes of bandwidth. Oh, this is the one I want. Okay. So see, as an example, here's one which actually is this same video as these ones, okay? But this is the original version from the NASA website. It's around about a 5-minute video, and it is 1.46 gigabytes. So what I would tend to do, and here it is as a full HD one, so that's like a quarter of the size, and okay, it's about a third of the size, but the ratio, it's 1080 rather than, no, in fact it's smaller than that. Right, so let me open this. So this is the way I tend to use it the most, because I now use another program if I want to reduce the size down. So you can see this is UHD 3840 by 2160, and I can reduce this down to whatever size, I like really. So I just go in, I think it's probably this one. Let's just have a look. Oh yeah, look, see, so I can keep the frame rate the same, but I can change the resolution. And then that will reduce down the data rate. See here, I'm trying to go for a rate of around about 800. Even that's pretty high, but compared to the original one, it's way, way, way lower. And you can obviously adjust the quality here as well. So if you put it on high quality, this rate is going to be much higher, and it'll obviously take longer to render. And obviously if you put it on the lower quality, it'll be faster and it will render much more quickly. So I think that's as far as I really want to go on this, because I say I tend to use a different program when I want to, have a much more control over the data rate. So that's probably for another call, really. Let's see. So I think Sheila's confirming. She was asking about the agency. Has this just started? No, we've been going almost 1.5 hours. Yes, it takes hours of training and re-listening over and over. Yeah, so that, and of course the other thing about maintaining the channel is that commands really a higher fee, or if you like, justifies your fee. And believe me, and I've got probably at least 12 years experience of like working with apps and Alexa and Google Home and all these other sort of things. People do not really want to build things themselves. A few might think they want to, but from my experience, those ones tend to be a flop. So what I mean by that is they maybe have the intention and they then either lose interest and totally, leave being a client with you, or what tended to happen to me more is the few that clearly were serious would say, well, you said you could build me that app for $5,000. And I said, oh no, I'd like to try it myself. You were absolutely right. I don't want to do it myself. Can you still please help me? And they would pay me, $5,000, and then depending what else I'm offering them, maybe $297 or $497 a month, to sort of maintain and support, their app, maybe send out a few push notifications, that sort of thing. So, a lot of people do realize it's, if you like, horses for courses, yeah? You wouldn't, if your central heating broke down, unless you happen to be a central heating engineer, chances are you're not going to try and repair it. I mean, in a lot of places that's illegal anyway. I mean, I know here in the UK, for example, you are not allowed to touch electrics. You're not allowed to touch gas and, central heating and that sort of thing, unless you are qualified and have a certificate. It's actually illegal. It's actually against the law. You can be prosecuted, if you do that. So, take my word for it. And indeed, and I said this to someone else, sort of I think in the last week. If someone says, "Oh, well, in that case, if I can't do it, I don't want to work with you," fine, and I don't want to work with you. You have the right, to accept or reject any client. And I do that at times, and sometimes I get it wrong. So what I mean by that is I think, yeah, I think this person will be okay. Uh, I'll take a chance. And then sometimes, a month or 3 months or something later, I realize, no, that was the wrong decision. And I'm not afraid then to turn around and say, sorry, this doesn't look like it's working out. So, I need you to find something, find someone else, because I don't think this is going to work. And they either then go, okay, or sometimes then they may say, well, okay, well, what would it take for you, to be willing to still help me? And that's when you find out really how serious they are. And you either then come to an agreement or you don't. But say, never be afraid, to sack a client that is not working out for you. Sometimes the hassle is just not, worth the effort. And I don't give up easily, but sometimes you do have to say, yeah, enough is enough, and I'll find someone else, because you will find people, if you are really motivated to action. I have no doubt of that. Right, I came across this Webby by accident after waiting in vain for it yesterday. I hope you have a replay. Yeah, there should be. We did put a message out yesterday, to apologize for not having the one that should have been yesterday. I mean, it didn't help, and I know it's an excuse and isn't really totally acceptable. But having the having the offer, the agency offer ending yesterday and trying to do one of these webinars really just wasn't going to work out. There was just too many going on. I mean, if you saw all the messages that I got, and Craig, I think, got probably 5 times as many as I did. And it was just busy, busy, busy all day long, and I think I probably answered about 50 messages. I think Craig probably had about 200. And I know a few people have asked, oh, how many licenses are left? Well, of course, there are no licenses left now because the offer closed, like Craig said, at midnight last night. So I'm afraid anyone that didn't get in, and, he did make enough announcements and posts in the group and everything about it, I'm afraid you'll have to wait till it's available again, which will probably be a few months, and, will be at a higher price, and obviously the bonuses and that, or what's included, will be different. But that's because Craig is a man of his word. He does not tell you one thing and then do something else, i.e. like, oh, well, by the way, you can still buy this at the same price and you get all the bonuses and all that. No, no, no. People found that on the last one, because some people got the agency version of the old software, which you had to host and all that. So it was clearly going to be cheaper for under $100. But it then did go up to $997. And that was, I think, probably about 2.5, 3 months ago. And some people did bleep. Well, I wanted it, and I didn't know it was going to go. I didn't think you were serious. I didn't think you put the price up. Well, we said we put the price up, so we've done exactly as promised. We don't give these, false scarcity. So I'm sorry, but we did warn people as much as we thought was reasonable. I sent lots of messages out, posts. Right, if anyone gets a license from Unlimited Channels, they will be able to do the following: promote and sell, including ebooks, videos, and other types of physical from their unlimited channels. Let me read that again. Promote and sell anything. Well, including ebooks, video courses, or other digital service and all types of physical products from their unlimited channels. Rent their channels to interested persons? No. Have commercials and affiliate products added to channels? Well, strictly speaking, no, and I'll quickly explain why. However, those who have the license for unlimited channels cannot sell their channels. Well, that's right, they can't, but they can't do most of what else you say. Promote and sell. See, that I think I would need more information because, for instance, you can't really sell inside, for instance, of ROKU or Amazon Fire TV, because you will not get your channels approved if that's what you're directly trying to do. But the other issue with that, I think, would be when you say promote and sell, are these your products? Are they someone else's products? Are they affiliates? Not saying you can't do affiliate products, but you can't do it inside the channel anyway. But definitely rental, no way. And okay, so I said I'd explain about the commercials and affiliate products added to the channels. Well, you can do that, possibly, not so much affiliate products, because the ads tend to run through ROKU, Barron's Media, or any of the others. Because see, here's the issue. You have rules that you have to comply with ROKU when you are running ads. Things like no one can see any ads on your channel for the first 15 minutes of viewing. So keep that in mind for a minute. You can only show ads on any video which is at least 7 minutes long. So that's the next one. So if you aren't using an ad server or the likes of a ROKU or a Barron's Media or the like, how can you possibly comply with that rule? I would say you can't. And therefore, you're going to be in breach of the rules that ROKU set. Because you couldn't, for instance, just add, a video in. Because, see, you have to as well, if you run ads on, as an example, Barron's Media, whilst ROKU might not take you up on it, you have to allow ROKU to display ads, which they will pay you for at whatever their going rate is, on 30% of your ad inventory. So if you're just embedding ads into a video, as an example, then that's never going to work, is it? and to say, plus the fact, you're just not going to be able to comply with their rules, because, that would mean, you'd never be able to put an ad in any video that was less than 15 minutes long, because you wouldn't know whether someone's going to watch a 7-minute video first or something else. But you're not allowed to have ads in the first 15 minutes of them watching your channel. So that's really why I say you can't have commercials and affiliate products added to your channel, because in any case, if it's an affiliate product and that's all the video is about, again, you're unlikely that ROKU will approve your channel. They don't want you selling directly inside. You can, maybe put something on the end of a video or something saying, I don't know, this video was sponsored by XYZ, www.xyz.com, but don't have that, URL go to a landing page or an opt-in page, or, buy my XYZ, because again, ROKU won't like it. And don't forget, they are a billion-dollar company. They're not stupid. They will find you out. They will probably ban your channel. They may even ban your whole account. So, don't do it. So hopefully, Edward, that answers your questions, albeit it might not be the answer you want. Where is it covered in the training that I can point others to it? Can you create a 97 per month option for the TVBoss Fire Agency so more of us will be able? No. I mean, it's now not even $2,000, so 97 a month, bearing in mind it's a yearly fee, would not cover $2,000. But the price now, and I haven't spoken to Craig today to find out exactly what I think it's probably not even on the market actually now, but I don't know what the new price will be, but it's certainly going to be more than $2,000. So to me, if it was me selling it, and I probably wouldn't do it at a monthly, but if I was, I would be selling that for a minimum of $300 a month. Probably $297 per month. And that would be based on the $2,000 pricing. If, for instance, it's gone up to maybe $3,000, but I believe it's probably not for sale now, then that would probably need to be $397. So, no, I'm sorry, Edward, that just cannot be done. I mean, I kept telling Craig the price was too low at 2,000, because when we talked about it before, and okay, we were more thinking on later in the year, because originally it wasn't going to come out in April, but because he got pestered by about 100 people, and some were pestering him every day, he relented and agreed, to bring it out at really an unbelievable price. But yeah, I get it. Not everyone would be able to afford that price. But we only wanted 100 people max, anyway. We can't support at this point of time anyway more than 100 people, particularly where we are going to be doing our darndest to make sure every single person is successful. They've got to do the work, don't get me wrong. You know, we're not going to be doing the work for them, but we're going to be, you know, trying to, you know, motivate them and help them as much as we can, because they are going to be our advert, really, aren't they? They're going to be our advert to say, look, I did this. And we got some real action takers, because I know of at least 3 people that, you know, either bought their license and then went on a call, you know, that they'd already pre-booked, or, you know, even went on the call before they bought the license. And okay, both of those 2, by the way, have said, you know, very strong, very positive call. Obviously still working on things. So I haven't closed my sale, but I'm feeling confident. Or in the other one, yeah, I think this is going really well, and I think this might be a multi deal sale, yeah, because I'm not just looking at one company, I'm looking at, you know, like a group of companies. So we just have to wait and see. I mean, you know, they're not all going to be an immediate success, but we do know from sort of November onwards on the old version, there were quite a few, you know, good success for some very big, you know, money deals, you know, multiple deals of 5,000, 10,000, 30,000, you know, that sort of thing. So, and you may have seen my post yesterday where, okay, someone didn't close a deal using TVBoss, but they're still speaking to the client, who has certainly indicated they're willing to spend more than $200,500 per month. And her words were, you know, this is the TVBoss Fire member, $10,000 for a channel is way too low. And I think she's right. You know, I mean, certainly the people that she's speaking to, you know, they wanted a few other things, you know, that, like being able to charge for things that, you know, you can't do with TVBoss. But that person didn't really seem to be too worried about the price. I know one of the platforms that potentially they're going to be using is $2,000 a month, and the other one is, I think it was what was it? I think it was 5,400 a year, because you had to pay for it yearly, with a $400 setup fee. So you can see there are people out there, and yes, you have to find the right ones that will, you know, pay these sums of money. Yeah, Jing is another one you can use for your thumbnails. Yeah, clip tools on Windows, there's tons. Is there a dashboard, TVBoss Fire, a separate login? It's a dashboard for TVBoss Fire. Do you, I think you better ask me this, Vicky, outside of this call, because I'm pretty sure you got the agency license. And I think that is an agency question. I think the only thing I'll say about that is, well, yeah, there will be a white label login. There isn't yet, So in other words, that will be able to have your own branding. If that doesn't answer your question, then just ask me outside. Right, I really need to know and learn how to compress video like that. I only have Handbrake so far and do not know how to compress that small. I got a 4-minute video to 75 megabyte in MP4, not even close. I mean, a lot of it does depend, I think, on the video. You know, like, because, I mean, but that one you could see, I mean, that was all this noon tour stuff. So that's pretty high, you know, like sort of high definition stuff, really. But I will, yeah, I will try and save that for another, you know, session. I have run over it with one of the members to sort of test it. And she absolutely loves it. And now she's using around about 800 kilobits per second for her videos, HD videos, those are. But, you know, that's ideal. I told her not probably to go above that. And some of mine, I have around about 250, but they're more the ones like I showed with Dad's Army. And just for anyone who doesn't know what Dad's Army is, that was a TV and radio show. I'm using the radio show, the radio tracks, if you like, the MP3 files, but making it into an MP4 by just combining it with a single image that runs throughout the video. So those videos are, for half an hour, I think, can be as low as about 78 megabytes, something like that. So looking at your example, Greg, 4-minute video, 75. So mine's around about a 28, 29 typically, with a similar size. But I appreciate mine's more of an image and the audio rather than a motion video. But, you know, just make it fit, you know, for your content, really. You know, don't make it way, way higher. Because, see, I know with mine, almost any person on ROKU would be able to play it and listen to the, you know, the soundtrack. And it's got that nice image on the screen, which, you know, just makes it more professional and appealing. To do that in the settings. Yeah, so I'll have to come back to that, Greg. I mean, I can tell, in fact, what I will do, but you probably want to wait till I do my training. I'll show you the, I'll find you the software. What is it? Oh, no, that's it. Hit Film Express. Oh, that's not going to be quite the right thing, but let's do this again. So this is the program that I'm using. And they do it for Windows and for Mac, which is handy. Sometimes on PCs, especially with computers probably more than about 3 or 4 years old, it doesn't work particularly well, you know, because it wants a graphic processing unit, a GPU, you might see sometimes. Hit film. Okay, this is it, FX Home. So I'm just using the free version of this Hit Film Express. So it doesn't have a lot of the extra plugins they do, but look, here it is here. But I accept you might want to wait till I do my training, because I show you how you can consistently get it to render your videos at, you know, the right sort of rate for using for HD or full HD to maximize that compatibility and really keep control of the amount of bandwidth you're using. All right, let's see. So maybe I should just try and put that link in the chat here, because at least then, if you can't see it on the screen, you can just click it and save it as a bookmark or save it in Notepad or something, so you've got it to go back to. Let's say you may want to wait till I actually do the training as well. Okay, so right, how are you sending out push notifications? Well, the push notifications isn't in ROKU. That I was referring to, you know, like on apps, iOS and Android apps. Right, there is a correction to my statement for above. Those who have the license for unlimited channels can only sell one. Yeah, well, that's the bonus, that one of their channels to someone else. And that applies on any of those other commercial rights. So if you wanted to rent it, then you could rent it to one person. Or, you know, I'm trying to think, you could lease it for a year and then find someone else a year later, that type of thing. But no, you cannot use it commercially. And essentially, I mean, I don't want to get bogged down with what is or isn't a commercial license. But essentially, if you're doing it for money and it's not just monetizing with ads, you know, where ROKU or Barron's Media or whatever are getting advertisers for you, pretty well anything that's outside of that, and that you can obviously do on your unlimited channels. But when you start moving on, well, I want to sell my own ads. Well, I told you the issues that you would have with that. You know, you might be able to do it if you get an ad server, but then what do you know about ad servers? How much is an ad server going to cost you? Probably, I've been told by one of the other members, at least $249 a month. So, and that assumes you know what you're doing, you know. And I mean, I wouldn't even feel confident of running my own ad server. And I do have some limited, shall we say, experience of running an ad server, but not for video ads. So, you know, just sort of think about that. Right, I have unlimited Vinny hosting from with a monthly 200 gig bandwidth max each month. Will this work for Amazon and ROKU for my channels? Highly unlikely. I think I know the service you're talking about. And to me, them calling it unlimited video hosting and then having a 200 gig bandwidth is, you know, not really going to work. I mean, especially, remember I said to you, and okay, this is the exception, but the lady who last month with one channel with 33 videos, I think all the videos are 30 minutes apiece from what I remember, and used 100 terabits of bandwidth. This month she will use more than that, because I think already it's on 73, and you know we're only just over halfway through. But let's compare 200 gigabytes with 100,000 gigabytes, because that's what she used last month. That's like 5,000, is it? 5,000 times more, I think. So no, you know, it's not going to work. I mean, if the channel isn't very successful, I think you might get one channel, two channels at a push, but that's such a small amount, you know, like because I'll give you another example. One person I know got their channel live in early January. I think it might have been even the 2nd of January. By the 11th of January, I know it was 8.5 days later, let's say it that way, they had 10,000 subscribers. They had 1,000 hours of viewing. That, I think, would probably be, and that was just one channel, that would probably be at least 500 gigs of bandwidth. And that was a totally new channel. And that's how quickly, if you're the right niche in the right place at the right time, if you like, how quickly your channel can, escalate. Just a second. How much longer will this be? Not long. I don't know how long ago your question was. I know you are overloaded. That's true. Right, I got in yesterday. Yay, great. I had to go into an emergency meeting, go over marketing. When will you have this posted? Right, will it be posted in the members area? Looking at the time now and the fact that I'm already late for another webinar, it probably won't be till the morning. You can do interviews on personal channels, right? Yeah, well, if they're your own, channel, and I don't know, you're presenting a show or whatever, it's your show, and you want to interview different people, well, yeah, that's fine. But obviously, if that's a personal channel, you can't sell that or appearing on that or something, as something you offer unless you happen to have the unlimited multi-channel license, and that is the one bonus commercial channel you're using. I mean, if you still have queries on whether you can do it, in fact, I've just recognized, I think, the name. I can't remember whether you got the agency license or not. I think maybe you didn't, but you can always, ask through support or whatever to, if you have other queries as to whether you can do what you're wanting or not. Right, can we have a show promo at the beginning, or would it be considered a commercial? Difficult one to answer, really. I mean, in the first instance, I'd probably have to see it, but that might be something anyway that you just have to see what ROKU say, because obviously I'm not a ROKU reviewer. I can only give you an opinion more than anything. QR code rules, I don't think they're going to allow that, but I don't know a definitive answer. I know one person at least suggested he was using them. Whether that got through or not, I suspect it perhaps didn't. And it would depend where you were sending it to anyway. If you send it to a landing page where you're going to want someone to opt in or to buy or something like that, I would say a definite no. If it's just to a website, maybe, but I wouldn't be 100% confident. What constitutes an ad versus just sharing your own website? Yeah, well, see, generally sharing your own website is okay, but it does And so that's, if you like, that's the outro, perhaps, on the ends of the video. But it does really depend, and that's what I said, about where it takes them. If you have it set so it takes them to a page which is like a shop, or you want them to opt in, um, you know, to get this free report or whatever, just straight off the bat, you're not letting them browse around and look and see, oh yes, click that, then that I would say is most probably a no-no. If you want to try it, up to you, but from all the feedback and everything that I've received, then I wouldn't generally, want to risk it personally. You need it to be really low key. They don't want it spammy. They don't want it, push this product down the throat type of job. That they won't like at all. Let me just, that's probably telling me off for being late. Right, okay, so I'll try and finish this up. Right, you say 7 minutes, is that? Right, you say 7 minutes. Is that one video at 7 minutes or 7 videos at 1 minute? No. Okay, so the videos have to be 7, like, let's say you're using Barron's Media or ROKU, yeah? If you have a video that is less than 7 minutes long, that video will never, ever, ever have any ads shown before it or during it or after it. Yeah, it just will not have any ads at all. So when you say one video at 7 minutes or 7 videos at 1 minute, no. If you have 7 videos at 1 minute, none of those will ever have any ads. And don't forget, like, if you're trying to do it yourself somehow without an ad server, without using a ad network, you've got real problems, because how do you make sure someone has watched at least 15 minutes of video before they get shown an ad? So like I say, it really means you can't have any ads in any videos that are less than 15 minutes long, because you don't know whether they're going to watch, video 1 first, video 10 first, or whatever. So it's just a minefield. So for the first 15 minutes, no ads, then 7 minutes after, yeah, Terry, basically, but that's really hard to do, which is my point, unless you're using an ad network. Because, like I say, you don't know what video they're going to watch first. So if you have a video that's 7 minutes long, because of that, you can't really put any ads in it. If it's 14 minutes long, even, you can't put any ads in it, because you don't know whether that's the first video they've watched. So I suppose in theory, yeah, you could do it by making sure all your videos were at least 15 minutes long, and then adding one ad. Because see, that's the other thing. Normally, if you have, say, a video that's, we'll say, 50 minutes long, let's assume they've already watched the 15 minutes, like yesterday or earlier today or whatever. On that 50-minute video, it would show 7 ads at the start, because 7 sevens are 49, and you're allowed 1 video for every 7 minutes. So that's how it would work that out. So like I think it was you, or maybe it was someone else, who said, oh, well, should I put my ad breaks in? Well, unless you're using the ROKU system, those ad breaks would not show anyway. So it wouldn't matter whether you'd filled them in, because it has to feed off of ROKU to work out when the ad should be shown. And then if it's connected to Barron's Media, for example, then it will show the ads that Barron's Media have set up. Right, does ROKU have any content restrictions? Well, yes, it does. Clearly, you can put some CBD stuff on there, because I've seen a few channels for that, but it does have restrictions. So you really need to look that up and see exactly. I think marijuana is a bit of a grey area, because obviously some places it's legal, other places like here in the UK and many other places it is illegal. And generally, if things are illegal, then I think ROKU probably aren't going to allow stuff on that. Oh, crikey, there's a load more questions. I have to really speed up now. Where can I find content for channel? Just check the training. There's a couple of videos in there, one of which is 30 minutes long, and it goes into quite a lot of detail, not only of where you can find content, if you don't have your own already, but also how to test whether it's viable, i.e. you don't want to build a channel for something that isn't viable, that is not going to have much interest in terms of subscribers. I may have missed it, but can you please explain again the monetization options for those who have not gotten the agency outside of Barron's ads? How can we make money? You're somewhat limited. You're unable to embed ads into the videos. So I think that's really a topic for another time, but it is very much limited, particularly because, and you might have to look back at an earlier part of this webinar, because of the rules that you have to comply with. So it isn't simply a matter of, oh, well, I'll just stick this ad in here, because, you have to hand over 30% of your ad space, if you like, to ROKU if you're advertising outside. But the bigger issue is being able to comply with their rules as well. I missed something about a $2,000 product that recently closed. I missed that part of the discussion. What was the product? That was the agency license for TVBoss Fire that closed at midnight Eastern last night. And what is the best? Now, you put me on the spot here, Greg, because I really don't like sort of promoting my own stuff. But, you can always message me after and I'll just give you a link to a video that you can check, because that's what this lady is using that I mentioned, that got this 100 terabits of bandwidth last month. And I saved her from her $15,000 plus a year bill, from Vimeo. And instead she's paying me about $20 a month, believe it or not. So don't all come flooding to me, because I don't want many more clients. I've already got about 20, and I'm not interested in just getting hundreds of clients. So you're saying we can't have any ads during a 30-minute or hour video at all. Well, no, it's not the first 7 minutes, Raven. The problem is this the first video that they've watched? That's the first thing, because you do not know that unless you're obviously using ROKU or Barron's Media to control when the ads are shown. Because the ROKU rule is no ads can be shown on your channel in the first 15 minutes of viewing that someone has. It doesn't have to all be in one day, so they could watch 5 minutes of video today, 10 minutes tomorrow, and then from that point on, they can be shown ads. And if they've done that 15 minutes like I just described, and they're now about to watch your 30-minute video, it would show them, and again, I'm assuming you're using ROKU or Barron's Media or another similar network, it would show them 4 ads, because 4 by 7 is 28, before it started playing the video. If it was a 60-minute video, it would show 8 ads before it starts playing the video. So it's not the first 7 minutes, but it's the fact that they have to watch 15 minutes, and this is assuming you're using the network, the ad network, before they get shown any ads at all. Yeah, you might make some money with info commercials, but I think it depends on what they're like. See, what you got to make sure, to my mind, is that it doesn't appear like sort of too pushy. Because if it is, then when you send it to ROKU to get it approved, chances are they're not going to approve it. And so, that's why I'm trying to give you the advice in that way, because I don't want to say something that then when it goes to ROKU, they go, oh, no, that's definitely wrong. I mean, because at the end of the day, they're the final decision makers on that, really. And I can only sort of guide you the best I can on, what I've seen in my own experience, really. Right, so how do I connect with you? Right, well, you find me in the group, Jonathan Hammond, so yeah, do it on Facebook is the best way. Well, okay, now you say I can get you contact information, or in fact, let's maybe do it this way. See if I can search on Barron's Media. I think it might be .com. See if that loads. Failing that, I'll just get it for you outside the call. Yeah, that's it there. So I'll just put the link in the chat for you. And that is how you can contact them. What you need to remember, which I know I've mentioned to a few people, which I've been on calls, probably around about a month ago, I think it was, might have been 6 weeks maybe. The criteria really for Barron's Media changed. It wasn't changed directly by Barron's Media, albeit they communicated it. it came from their advertisers. So previously, they, were finding there were advertisers that would have ads on channels which were really new, maybe didn't have very many reviews, and did not have very many hours of viewing time. But say that the advertisers approached them, I think, as a collective and said, okay, generally speaking, we don't want our ads to appear on channels that have less than 100 reviews or 1,500 advertising opportunities per day. So let me just explain that. Remember we said 7 minutes per ad? Forget about the 15-minute rule for a minute, okay? So 200 hours per day, that's a pretty rough figure, because so that would equate to 1,600 opportunities. What we mean by opportunities is slots where an ad could be shown. It will be rare, especially in the early days, that you would get more than probably even 20% in the early days of your ad slots filled. But as the weeks and the months go by, and particularly as the year goes by, because it tends to be low take up on ads like in January, February, and maybe even March, but then it starts growing. And this is what I picked up from Barron's Media's webinar that is in the members area. It then maybe grows to 75% plus on a lot of channels by the time you get into like the Black Friday and into December time. So you can see now, if you just contact them and you're starting out, yes, they'll give you some advice and all that, because they're really helpful, people. And they'll be able to tell you, if you tell them what your channel's about and so on, whether that is going to be a channel that's going to be of interest to advertisers. To give you an example of two channels that would not be of interest to advertisers are soothing music for dogs, soothing music for cats. Cats don't buy things from adverts, and chances are, in reality, most people are not going to be watching the screen, while their dog or their cat listens to some soothing music. So you can see why an advertiser probably is not going to jump at the opportunity to display ads on your channel. But those are sort of things, that Barron's Media can tell you much better than I can. So just sort of bear that in mind, that, they'll certainly be willing to help. I think it's got contact details here, look, down here. And so, yeah, I encourage you to contact them to get their advice, but don't expect them to sort of jump and say, yes, we got to get on your channel right now. Especially if you turn around and said, oh, well, I've just started. Right, is it possible to have a channel be private? Sort of, but it's something that ROKU don't like because of the way it's been abused. So what I mean by that is, if you do not submit your channel to be approved, then you can obviously invite people to the channel. But ROKU now, I understand, have started monitoring those channels. And if they think, you're doing it just to, get around things or keep things really covert that, may be a bit close to the law or pornographic or anything like that, then don't be surprised to find it shut down. I'm probably better speaking off the call. I mean, I have sort of covered this about the problems of adding your own video commercials. So there are lots and lots of issues because of the rules and having a link leading people to a free gift or report. No, my understanding is ROKU really frown on that as a direct sort of option, really. Which of your trainings go deep into commercials, trainer requirements like you're explaining? Well, okay. I won't say at the moment that it goes deep into commercials and channel requirements, but yeah, the rules or the ones that are relevant are covered. There's lots of other little ones, but that sort of the 15-minute rule, the 7-minute rule, and those sort of things, yeah, that's just covered in the general training. But yeah, there's obviously more stuff being added all the time. Particularly there will be in the success training, which I got a bit bogged down with in the few days before the launch or around the launch, because for a few days I was in hospital. During the launch I was in hospital, but that's another story. But that will all be coming online. It will be fully completed with what I outlined at the start of the training, plus a lot more. So let me see, right. Is commercials covered in Academy? Well, yeah, it will certainly be. I mean, a lot of that stuff is still, of course, being added because, in fairness, the agency was only launched a week ago at short notice, because originally I think it was going to be the end of April, and that was only after, a lot of people had pushed him to release it. And so now we're still obviously adding things. I mean, a lot of people, obviously, with the agency, they're all going to get their, one-on-one strategy call with me. There's going to be the webinars, group webinars. There's going to be tons and tons of stuff. Because, we really do, and I'm not just saying this, we really do want everyone, whether they're an agency holder or, even a single channel owner, to have some success. Because when we're talking about financial success, that tends mainly, I would say, to be with the agency holders. And obviously in a few instances where people are, imperfect action takers and use, their bonus commercial channel because they have the multi-channel unlimited license. So I think with that I'll have to end it, because I think I've probably been sacked from my other job, because I'm extremely late for that webinar, but I'll just have to apologize. So thanks for joining me. All being well, this will be put in the members area in the morning, say late morning, probably UK time. So for those of you in Eastern time zone, for example, I would have thought by 7 or 8 in the morning, your time, it should be there for you. So thanks for those that joined, and we've certainly built up as the call went along. I know we only had maybe 10 or 15 people, but I think at the start, but we peaked, I think, at around about 70. And even now, after over 2 hours, we have 45 people. So thanks, and I do hope you found this useful, and will help you try and sort of find a few of your own things. I mean, I love helping people, but it's getting a bit chaotic for me because I really had to shut my Facebook and my Skype off because I'm just getting tons and tons of requests all day, every day, and like I say, go to bed now, midnight my time if I'm lucky. And when I get up, which isn't at the crack of dawn, but I find there's a load more requests in there. So, yeah, see you in the group, and, best of luck with everything. And, I think we're seeing some really great results so far. Certainly lots and lots of people with, channels live and not just on ROKU, because I know there were some skeptics who said, oh, well, yeah, you might get them on ROKU, but you'll never, ever get them on Amazon Fire TV. You're totally wasting your time. Wrong. So thanks again, and bye for now.